when your project car is missing an engine, so you bought an engine because this other engine doesn't work. Today we're going to put together an engine. Alright, we're back for another update. I've been a little busy since I last recorded stuff, so let me show you around here. I got a really packed garage, so gotta navigate a little bit, but we pulled the engine. Didn't get any footage of it. I was in a hurry, but I have the new engine block right here. OEM short block, remanufactured. We're gonna start building this engine. I was able to save some time by buying this remanufactured block, trade in my core, so we're gonna get to building. Alright everyone, we're back again. We're doing this engine build. It's been quite a while since I've recorded anything. Well, I guess I've been recording the whole time, but it's been a while since I've posted to the channel, just because I've been like in the midst of this project and got a lot of stuff going on at work. But I'm really excited to share with y'all the progress that I've made. So as you can see here, I'm applying assembly lube to the camshaft and the cylinder head surfaces where the camshaft is going to mate. And you really want to get these lubed up so that you don't have any friction between the metal when you install them. And this is just assembly lube, so eventually the oil is actually going to get in here and add that fluid between these surfaces to have them nice and smooth. So you can see I'm testing that, making sure everything's to my liking, and I decided I wanted a little bit extra, so I'm putting some more there. So I know it's been a while since I've posted, but really this project has blown up tremendously. My original thoughts were to just do a new head gasket, and I had the cylinder heads removed and I took them to a machine shop to have them resurface. And while I was there, I had them do a leak test and a pressure test on it, and I would highly recommend you do that if you're going to do a head gasket job, just to make sure your cylinder heads are in a good starting point. Before I go into the rest of the story, I'll talk a little bit about what I'm doing here now. I'm on a new step and I'm applying this RTV liquid gasket, so you want to put a nice small bead all the way around on the corner of this groove, so you can see it's all sped up, but I'm taking my time trying to make sure I get a good even layer down. So back to the engine build, I took this to the machine shop. They did a leak test and found that all of the valves except for one on my exhaust side were leaking, so I think that explains my loss of power and rough idle and some of the other problems I was having with the car. So I decided to do, I had to do a lot of valve work on it, and decided, hey, if I'm, going all out for the top end of this engine, I need to get a bottom end that can match it and handle the full compression. So end up getting a fully remanufactured short block, which I showed earlier in the video. So this is kind of where the project's gone. The STI engine project is definitely on hold now while I keep tackling this. So right now, I have some great updates. We got 2 good episodes coming out, and I'm really excited for y'all to see the progress I've made and eventually the first drive of the car once I got everything together. So definitely stick around for that. There's going to be a lot of good progress here. I'm going to show y'all a couple steps. I didn't record everything, but in this video I have assembling one of these cylinder heads, and then I'll show you like how to torque down all the bolts, and then how to install the cylinder head with the new head gasket to the engine block. And I think those are really the biggest steps there. Doing that stuff right is kind of the hardest portion of this. I didn't have to go ahead and do all the other bits like putting in the new pistons and stuff, just because I bought that remanufactured block. So that really saved me a lot of time, and I was trying to get this done to do the Rallycross Fest in the summer to go racing again, but I'm also getting married, and I decided I need to save a little bit of money, so I'm not going to be racing in July. I'm going to be saving and getting married soon, so that's really exciting. I know it's not racing, but honestly, it's more important than racing, so that'll be a good time for me. But once we get this car, I have a couple other projects planned after this engine build, and we're going to get this car back in tip-top shape. So right now, as you can see, I'm kind of running all these fasteners in place a little bit, trying to temp install them. And I noticed the one closest to the camera on the bottom right there, I needed a little socket extension because it goes deep in this hole, so I had to kind of get a little bit extra clearance there. But yeah, I'm just running down the fasteners now. I wanted to get something in place because that gasket, you really want to let it sit and settle in there. So now I'm moving over to these cool little sockets I got because these are all what do you call them, like hex bits. So got the right sockets, getting them lined up, running them down. And then I'm going to need to get out my torque wrench here pretty soon and start torquing down fasteners in the right order. So first step was do temp install here. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. All right, so now you can see I'm bringing in the rocker valves or valve rocker assembly to the cylinder head. I'm lining them up in place, and then I'm going to come in with the bolts and kind of get them lined up. So you can see you kind of just have to match. Okay, these sit on top of the valve, so just line them up in the right spot. Bada bing, bada boom, pretty easy to do. And then I'm pulling out the bolts. I'm going to put those in place, and then I'm going to run all those bolts down by hand at first, get them on the threads, and then I'll use my electric ratchet to drive them in a little bit, get them in place, and then get ready for the torque down. So that'll be done with the torque wrench, obviously. Next, we're going to torque them down to 18.1 foot-pounds. All right, next we're going to take these and tighten them to 13 foot-pounds. All right, so I made some progress off camera. Been a little frustrated today, but I got the oil pump installed and the oil pressure sensor installed. Torqued down the spec. New seals, like new O-ring, new oil seal on the front, all that good stuff. I'm about to do the water pump now. Couple things to note. With the new thermostat, you also need to get this gasket. You seat the thermostat in the gasket, and then you slide them in together into this part. Get a new seal here. This goes on this side where the oil pump is, and obviously a new gasket here. So when I was reading the manual, I've read you'll put this together, then you have to go counterclockwise, torquing the fasteners down to 7.2 foot-pounds or 10 Newton meters, and you go one time around, then you do it again. It's important not to over torque because you will shear a bolt off, and that is not fun. Switching over to the torque wrench, we start with this fastener and then counterclockwise. All right, second time around. All right, so this might not be the most fun detail, but we gotta do it. If you're gonna do a build, do it right, do it once, so you don't have to come back and fix mistakes. But we got a new gasket here on the edge of this part, and I also replaced these little seals here, so it's a little adhesive bit. This one goes on the inside, right here, and then one on the back, and those go. It fits like so. That's how we're gonna fit it up. So we're gonna install this part, 3 fasteners. Should be simple. All right, head gasket of choice. We got the multi-layer steel STI gaskets. This is the move. When you're installing them, make sure that this hole lines up with this coolant pass, or maybe it's I'm pretty sure it's a coolant pass, but you don't want to cover it up, so you can never install it wrong because you'll find a slotted hole and just line that up. Set on the dowel pins like so, and that's a head gasket installed. Now to put the cylinder head on. Unfortunately, putting on the cylinder heads is not as easy as doing a head gasket. The gasket is simple. You find the dowel pin, you align it. After that, you're going to take your cylinder head and you're also going to align to that dowel pin. But then the fun part comes in, and that's where you install your head bolts. Now, for the Subaru Imprezas, I don't know about other cars because I'm still, I'm just a YouTube mechanic. I'm certified though, because look at this. Doing some solid work here. But for these cars, they use torque to yield head bolts, and right now you can see I'm kind of adding some assembly lube to the threads and the washers on them, and that's in the manual. It calls out to apply some assembly lube because you want to be able to install them. You're aiming to not tear up the threads when you're installing the bolts. But as I was saying, they use torque to yield bolts, and so these are super cool because the threads on your bolt, actually you over torque them to the point that you get some what's called plastic deformation. So I'm about to drop some engineering knowledge on y'all. All materials have these like a yield strength and different material properties for when after so much stress is applied to it, it will eventually begin to deform, or it'll change. It's like how it's made. So like if you have a bar and you pull it to a certain point, it'll start to pull the bar apart, right? And then that's called plastic deformation, where you're taking something that was maybe it's 10 inches and now you've stretched it to 12 inches because you've applied so much force to it and stress throughout the part. So these bolts, you torque them, or over torque them rather, to the point that the threads that go into the hole actually extend, and they bite a little bit better into the block itself, the threads on the other portion. The reason that you would like to do this is it allows the engineer that designed it, they can get a little bit more controlled clamp up in the joint, and that's especially good here because you're putting a gasket in between two aluminum parts. So getting the right clamp up to keep these bolts together and prevent the leaks is super crucial here, because the whole point of your head gasket is so that you don't have leaks there. So that's a little bit of background on the type of bolts that the Subaru engine uses. I hope you guys enjoyed this little nerdy engineering segment. I'm gonna hopefully bring more of this content because I'm an engineer by trade, so I find this stuff interesting, and hopefully some of y'all do as well. So I'm getting the assembly lube on the last of the bolts now and just working that in all the spots, and then putting them in the holes, kind of getting them started by hand. And then after that, you do your run down, get the bolt all the way bottomed out, and then you'll start doing your torque after that. And it's a very called out and specific process for installing these bolts because of the torque to yield part. You don't want to over torque them and shear your head bolt, and if you shear a bolt, that's when it splits in half, and then you have a threaded portion stuck in your engine block, and you're in a horrible position because you have to figure out how you're going to get that out. So it can be stressful, but there's a lot of content on YouTube and the owner's manuals, or the assembly manual, that you can follow, and if you just follow the procedures, it's very straightforward. So I'm going to show you all the way to do it for a 2001 Impreza, the 2.5 RS engine, but you want to look up a video for your specific engine or find the manual for your specific vehicle model when you're doing this. So here we go. Last bolt right here, and then we'll get started with the fun stuff or the stressful stuff, depending on your outlook. All right, we're gonna run all the fasteners in first by hand. Tightening to 22 foot-pounds. $51 foot-pounds. Okay, I marked all of the bolts with one dot on the top, and I'm going to loosen them 180 degrees and then repeat it one more time. So at this point, all of the bolts have been over torqued, and the threads now have that plastic deformation that they were looking for. And what you're doing here is just loosening the bolts so that you can do the actual torque called out for them to have everything installed properly. Now, I will say there's one thing I did wrong here, and it was in the manual it calls out to loosen these bolts in the opposite order that you tighten them, but I just followed the same order. I kind of got lost in that procedure, so I'm not sure that it really makes a difference because I was loosening them all like, you know, one by one, following like a procedure, same way every time. But if you're doing it, definitely you loosen them alternate of the way that you install them. All right, now I'm going to tighten bolts A and B to 25 foot-pounds. And then the rest of them go to 11 foot-pounds. So we'll start with C, which is the top left. All right, I've remarked them. I'm going to do another 90-degree tighten in alphabetical order. Okay, so yeah, this is probably one of the more stressful moments because you're doing that final torque down. Another fun engineering tidbit here. Some of these torques are called out in degrees because it allows the engineer to have like a more precise control of the actual torque versus having like a foot-pound number. And you could learn a little bit more about that if you research it. But yeah, it's interesting. And as I showed, I kind of marked a lot of these bolts along the way so that when I was doing these torques, like the 180 degrees, I can check my dots and make sure that I actually turned it 180 degrees. And after I did that, when I was doing the actual torques, it's pretty interesting because even when you're not doing it by a certain angle, you're doing it by the torque number, they ended up aligning in all about the same spot. So all the dots ended up being like, 90 degrees away or whatever, and they were all kind of aligned. So that kind of helped me have confidence in my tool that was calibrated right. And I don't know, I just thought that was interesting. So yeah, this is my video of getting the cylinder heads in, continuing the engine build. I really hope that y'all enjoyed this. It's been a long time coming and a lot of work. This was the second, or now it's the biggest project I've ever done on the Subaru, and it's like my second big project that I've done for the car. So the first thing I did was the manual swap, and now I put a whole new engine in there and I put it together. So I'm super happy with myself, but there's still a little bit of work to go. So stay tuned. I'm gonna have another update showing getting the engine in the car, and I'll have to obviously include the first drive and the break-in procedure there for this engine because it's a brand new block. Basically, it's remanufactured, but it's basically brand new, and you have to do a couple things to make sure that you break it in properly and it has a good life ahead of it. So the first miles are very important. So I hope that you guys enjoy. Stay tuned. I got a lot of more content coming. I'm going to try to get more active again, and we're going to see how the channel grows. I hope that y'all enjoy. Give me a like, subscribe, comments. Let me know what you think. How can I make these videos better? If you're just a hater, then you suck. But I don't care. I love you all. So bye.